CPI data. That's our topic for today's Backstage Pass. Hey everybody, stocks and bonds are down pretty sharply so far today. Mortgage rates opened up worse than where they closed yesterday. This is all on the news of the morning. That was the CPI data that was released this morning. So first and foremost, let's talk about the CPI data. I'm going to throw a graphic up here on the screen so we can look at it together as we go through some of this data. Now, overall inflation for August, that increased by 0.1%. And although that's still a low figure, it was larger than the negative 0.1% that was expected. As a result, year-over-year inflation, well, that declined from 8.5% to 8.3%, but it was expected to drop down to 8.1%, so that came in hotter than what was expected as well. But the real story here, well, that's the core rate. CPI core rate strips out food and energy prices. It increased by 0.6%, which was double the expected 0.3% increase. And as a result, year-over-year core inflation, well, that increased from 5.9 to 6.3%. Forecast was 6.1%, so again, hotter than what was expected. And as we start to dive into some of the internals here, looking at some of those things that make up the CPI data, shelter rose by 0.7%. It's the highest increase since 1991. Rents rose by 0.7% last month, and now they're up 6.7% year over year. The previous reading was 6.3%. The owner's equivalent rent, which tries to capture the rise in home prices, doesn't necessarily do a great job, but it does try. Well, that rose by 0.7%. That's up 6.3% year over year, up again from 5.8% back from July. More of these internals, energy prices, they actually fell 5% from a month ago, bringing the annual gain to 24%. Gasoline prices fell 11%. They're up still, though, 26% year over year. Now, food prices, that makes up about 14% of that headline CPI. Well, that climbed 0.8% in August, bringing that year over year gain to 11.4%. If you've been to the grocery store recently, you've noticed some of those gains in food prices. Now, with CPI coming in hotter, well, it's no wonder that mortgage bonds are reacting adversely to that data. And remember, inflation is the enemy of the bond. Bonds are a fixed rate of return investment. And so if bonds are returning at a specific rate and inflation goes up, well, then when that return comes back to the investors, because inflation has gone up, they can't buy as much with the money that they got back as a return. So that's why bonds are really or inflation is really the enemy of the bond. So again, it's no wonder that the bond market is reacting kind of adversely to today's CPI data. Mortgage bonds are down 61 basis points at the time of recording. The 10-year yield is up 8 basis points. For mortgage rates, well, mortgage rates, the national average on a 30-year fixed mortgage yesterday came in at about 5.98%. Today, we're expecting that to come in at around 6.35%. So mortgage rates have gone up on this data as well. Now, look, it's super easy to kind of get focused on the negative. You know, our mantra here on the Backstage Pass is to stay positive. Well, how can you stay positive? This news from CPI is definitely not good news, right? So how do you stay positive? Number one, focus, all right? Like I said, it's easy to focus on the negative. It's important to understand the CPI data, how it's affecting the bond market, how it's affecting mortgage rates and housing. It's important to understand those things, but it's also important not to stay focused on that as negative news. Instead, take a look at the future. Number one, inflation is going to come down. The Fed is going to raise the federal funds rate. There's a meeting for the Fed on September 21st. They're definitely going to be raising the Fed fund rate. That's important to help fight inflation. And as inflation comes down, well, mortgage rates will follow suit. They have historically, they always have, and they will again because mortgage rates are tied to mortgage bonds. And so again, as inflation comes down, bonds are going to start to go back up and mortgage rates will fall. But the other thing that we can do too is take a look at the current times and realize that there's opportunity for growth right now. And you say, how? Well, you know, instead of focusing on the negative, let's focus on the things that we can control: effort, mindset, attitude. And right now you got to have a mindset of growth, a growth mindset. Well, how can we grow right now whenever, you know, housing is slowing down and all this kind of, how do you grow? Well, you can focus on your effort. You can reach out to more contacts. You can build your network as big, bigger than what it already is right now. And you can just put in that max level effort and have that attitude and mindset of growth. Focus on those things that you can control. Don't focus on the negative. Understand what the negative, understand what the data means and how it impacts everything. But don't focus on it. Focus is a choice. That's all the news that we have for today. Tomorrow and throughout the rest of the week, we've got retail sales, we've got Philly Fed Business Index. We've got a lot of more data, business data or economic data coming out this week. So we'll bring that to you as it comes. But for now, remember to stay positive. Have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.